Hi, welcome everyone, and welcome to Judy Parson, the LinkedIn lady, taking over the Northern Affinity and our social media channels. So you'll be pleased to know you'll hear very little from me today, and mostly from Judy, who's going to talk to us about essentially effectively using LinkedIn and answer any questions you have as well. So if you are watching this live, you will have comments options to put into the boxes, ask a question to Judy. Anything about LinkedIn, I'm sure we'll cover them. But if you are watching it on demand as well, I appreciate that people can't always watch it live. Put the question in and we'll make sure those get to Judy, and I'm sure she'll be happy to answer any of those. So I'll stop talking now, and I'll hand it over to you, Judy, to take over and take us through what you've got planned.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Michael. It's wonderful to be here. It's really exciting, taking over the Northern Affinity social media for today. So what I thought I'd do in this live is actually talk about managing your time on LinkedIn. Because I was talking to somebody recently, and what she said to me is that she spends a lot of her time faffing on LinkedIn. So she scrolls through her news feed, reads bits and pieces, but doesn't actually do anything on the platform. And she said that she feels that she doesn't have an end game and doesn't really know what she's meant to be doing. So I don't know if that feels like you or anybody else, because if it does, you are not alone. During the pandemic, I ran a number of LinkedIn trainings, and I call these trainings LinkedIn Love-ins, and I'm still doing them. I've got one next Tuesday at 1 o'clock, which we can pop the link into the chat box at some point to that. But basically, during these LinkedIn Love-in trainings, one question that comes up time and time again is, how do I manage my time on LinkedIn effectively? Or, can you give me the top 3 things you'd recommend to do on LinkedIn that will maximize my time? And, these are absolutely great questions. So I always like to say that LinkedIn is not a social media platform, but in a way it is like any other social media platform. It's so easy to waste time doing ad hoc, unfocused activity that gets you nowhere. So I've actually built my business on LinkedIn. It's my primary lead generation platform for my business. So I know full well how easy it is to faff on LinkedIn. It's difficult to stay focused and not keep going down all those, proverbial LinkedIn rabbit holes, if you like. But what I do know from the 8 years teaching and mentoring people on how to use LinkedIn for business and to grow my own business is that to get tangible results from LinkedIn, what you need is a plan. You need a clear, actionable daily plan of action. So how do we create that? How do we get started? What do we need to do for that? Well, where I start and where I start with my clients is that I start by defining a LinkedIn strategy. By this, I mean, what's your objective? What is it that you want LinkedIn to do for you? Who's your audience? Who is it you want to get in front of? We then go look at what's your prospecting strategy? Who are you going to connect with and how are you going to connect? And then we've got content strategies as well. What are you going to post and when are you going to post? And then the final piece of your overall LinkedIn strategy is how you're going to measure success. So although LinkedIn is free as a platform to use, it still does cost your time. So we still want to be making sure that we've got some return on investment coming in there somewhere. So let's start with your why. Why is it you're on LinkedIn and what is it you want LinkedIn to do for you? So the reason I do this is that in a lot of instances, what happens is somebody will say, oh, you need to be on LinkedIn. It's a great platform. You need to go on and be on LinkedIn, and people will go away. They will create an account. They don't really know what LinkedIn is, and they don't really know why they're on LinkedIn. And of course, LinkedIn feels like your online CV, and it drives you down that CV route. It makes you feel like you've got to put everything you've ever done and every education that you've ever had on your profile there. But if you're a business owner or if you're responsible for sales, what you want, of course, is leads. You're looking for new clients. You're not looking for a job. And when it comes to lead generating, or lead generation, should I say, it's all about attracting the right people to you and to your business, which is one of the huge benefits of LinkedIn and why I think it's such an exciting place to be, because it is the only social media platform that allows you to build relationships with people you don't know and grow them into opportunities. So, for example, I'm sure you've heard many times people say that they've been contacted by somebody they didn't know, but it turns out they've been following them for X amount of time, months or years. So with LinkedIn, you can have people who you don't know dropping messages into your inbox asking to work with you. Happy days. I mean, that's what we want, isn't it? It's the holy kind of trinity, if you like. That's what we want, messages dropping into our inbox. So when it comes just relating that back to our LinkedIn strategy, when it comes back to your LinkedIn strategy, it's understanding what that primary objective is. And it's to use LinkedIn to help us find and get in front of the people we want to meet and open the door to conversations. It's about warming people up so they get to know who we are, and then they're actually happy to talk to us as well. So once we understand what that objective is, it also means that we have to understand who our audience is. Who is it we want to meet? And it's not going to be everyone. On LinkedIn, knowing your audience is really important, as it is for any marketing activity. If there's any marketing people listening to this, they will, obviously agree, who do you want to get in front of? Who are you talking to is essential for any marketing activity. But from LinkedIn's perspective, the reason why knowing your audience is so important is because it underpins what you write on your LinkedIn profile. It underpins your prospecting efforts on LinkedIn. And it also underpins what you post on LinkedIn, because you want to be posting stuff that is relevant to your audience. So, for example, I always kind of go and say this, if you sell oranges and people who want to buy limes, they're just not going to be interested in what you've got to say. So it's just that kind of example that I kind of give. So on the LinkedIn Loving training that I'm running next Tuesday, I'm going to go into more depth about knowing your audience and also a bit more depth about those key elements of a LinkedIn strategy. And I think, Michael, you can put the link to that in the chat, which is fantastic. If anybody wants to join me, I'd love to see you there. But that's our overall strategy. Once we've defined our strategy, what we want to do then is pull that into our daily action plan, if you like, a defined set of activities that we can do on a daily basis that will achieve our overall objective of being on LinkedIn. So these are action steps that you focus on in the time that you do have to spend on LinkedIn. So instead of faffing in the precious amount of time you do have, you are actually focused on those activities. Because what I often say is that it's not so much the time you spend on LinkedIn as what you do in the limited amount of time that you do have. That's really important. And sometimes, if you set yourself so much time and you do what you need to do, anything over and above that is like a bonus. So I do have my number one tip for managing your time on LinkedIn, which I'm going to share in my LinkedIn training next Wednesday. So if you do want to go into more depth about what I've been talking about here on how to get your dream clients coming to you without spending hours on the platform, I will be going into this in a lot more detail there. So I'm also going to be talking about the 3 steps to LinkedIn success. Now, these are all designed to get your ideal clients coming to you on LinkedIn. And my 3 steps to LinkedIn success include your Get Found, which is all about your LinkedIn profile, hugely important because it's your shop front on LinkedIn and people will make a decision about whether they want to work with you from that. Step 2 is Get Clients. That's about using the tools within LinkedIn to go and find the people that you want to get in front of for free. And then step 3 is Get Famous. That's about posting and engaging on the platform. So you're raising your visibility and those self-selecting or attracting those self-selecting clients to you. So those are my 3 key steps. So I'll be going through those as well. I'll also be giving away my top 3 daily actions that I recommend people to do, because I think, for me, these are the most effective actions that you can take. And as if you've only got so much time, then these are really what you want to spend your time doing. You can decide how much time you want that to be, but if you know what you're doing in that time, you can just dedicate some focused time, some consistently, maybe hopefully once a day, to actually do these steps over and over. And I'm also going to be covering how to connect on LinkedIn without coming across as salesy or nerdy or pushy, because nobody likes those sales pitches that we get on LinkedIn, do they? So that was our sort of overview of what I'm going to be covering next week, with hopefully some thoughts in there about managing your time on LinkedIn. If you do want to know how to use your time more effectively on LinkedIn and stop wasting time on ad hoc activity, then, please do join me at 1 next Tuesday, where I'll be going a lot more depth.
Thank you.
So was there any questions at all?
Yes, there was a question there. It was about posting on LinkedIn. A lot of people kind of go on LinkedIn and scroll up and down and might like and maybe even reply to other comment, but very rarely post themselves. Why do you think that is?
Well, that's a really good question, isn't it? I think some people are nervous of posting on LinkedIn because they have a perception of what LinkedIn is, and that it's very serious and that they can't post on there. Actually, I was doing a presentation not so long ago, and somebody said to me that they felt that LinkedIn was like Radio 4 and that Facebook was like the Jeremy Kyle show. And she felt uncomfortable posting on LinkedIn because she was too nervous and worried about what to post. But actually, I think posting is important for sure, but I think engaging is even more important, because we want to have that two-way dialogue. And I think it's a really good place to start if you actually go and engage first, because then you can start sort of feeling your way into LinkedIn. And so, hi Zoe. I say Zoe's just put a little comment there, say hi. So I thought, say hi back.
So we're going to comment on our Twitter page, which we've not been able to bring up, but basically the question is, if you could choose one thing that you would change about LinkedIn, what would it be? That's a great question, by the way.
That is an absolutely great question. If I could choose one thing, and of course, the difficulty is choosing one thing. Which I think the one thing that really frustrates me, I guess, is that LinkedIn is constantly evolving and changing, and it has new features come out. And then some great features disappear and some other not so great features disappear, which is not often a worry. So like stories are going at the end of the month. It's probably no great shakes there. I don't think it was the right platform for it. But what really annoys me is that LinkedIn have this big fanfare of announcing all these lovely new features, and then you don't get them for ages. And then some people get them and some people don't. I just wish they had a little bit more of a more effective way of rolling out these features. Definitely is one way of doing it. And again, what's another? Oh God, you said one, didn't you? I just thought of something else that really annoys me.
You're allowed to. You're allowed to.
So I think it goes back to what the question was about posting and things like that, and also sometimes when you see what people post on there, and I go, why is that being posted on there? And people trying to push things onto you, or that it's not relevant. And sometimes, so it's being able to control your news feed. That is a great option to do on there if you're not liking the posts that you're seeing because they're not relevant to you. And also, of course, the way that LinkedIn is being, shall I say, undermined in a little way, but by automation tools and all the sort of people just throwing stuff out there to see what sticks. So you get a sales message and that'll have gone to, like, I don't know, thousands of people in the hope that something will stick. So that's another really annoying thing on LinkedIn.
But a really interesting comment. So if for some reason it doesn't always pull out who did it, but I think this might have been Karen, about loves LinkedIn, gets lots of work, which is fantastic. Wishing the sharing option encourage more engagement. I think that's a really interesting point, actually, because I think you look at other platforms, sharing or retweeting, whatever they might call it, is probably kind of the ultimate compliment, as it were. Whereas in LinkedIn, it doesn't really have much of an effect.
No, I always say sharing is not caring on LinkedIn. Please don't do it. Because often the person who did the post doesn't even know. Yeah, absolutely. I don't really understand why that's even, and then LinkedIn actually encourages you to do it, because you'll put a comment on there and then LinkedIn will say, oh, start your own post based on your comment. So it shares it. So it even encourages you, even though it then completely reduces the impact and the reach of that post, which is completely bizarre. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go figure. LinkedIn, it's like, it's a great platform. It really is, but it definitely has its bugbears.
It does. It feels like one of those platforms that is very. I as you know, Judy, I really like it. I've had
Yes.
a lot of great things from it. It's been great, but you just feel like there's with very little relative work, it could be absolutely brilliant. I know it's all relative because I'm sure in the background there's a lot of technical stuff to it, but you look at other platforms that are able to do stuff.
Yeah,
Feels like
yeah.
quicker and better.
Yeah, I guess it's like everything, isn't it? There's nothing's ever perfect. It's just using what's there to your advantage, isn't it? I think. And I mean, I'm not particularly au fait on all the other platforms, so sometimes it's hard for me to make a direct comparison. But I still think LinkedIn has got more than a lot of the other platforms. But you just kind of have to go, it's LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and it kind of go, oh, yeah, well, that's LinkedIn for you, and accept it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting how the stories thing. Obviously, the stories is very big on Instagram and works really, really well. It's very, very popular. I don't know if you know that, Judy, but Twitter they call it fleets. I think Twitter called it. They're getting rid of that as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? So I think it depends on the users of those particular platforms and what they want. And it always struck me as odd having stories on LinkedIn. And actually, I didn't use them. And then, like a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I thought, I better get my head around these LinkedIn stories. That's before they announced they're getting rid of them. And because what I was wanting to see if stories got different people saw the stories. But the stories don't actually get that much reach. But it is quite interesting because the people who did see it were the ones that didn't seem to see it or engage with my stuff on LinkedIn normally. So it was quite interesting from that perspective, I think. And what I liked about stories is that you could actually see who'd looked at it, unless they set it in their settings that they couldn't. And I quite like that, because it would be lovely to see on LinkedIn who's seen your post. You know, the profile views, you don't know who they are. And in fact, it's not a post view is it could be anyone. Doesn't mean to say they've actually seen it, but it would be nice to know actually who's looked at it.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see, a question from Pete Evans. Value of a company page on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Obviously, we're currently doing this through a company page.
Yeah,
So
highly recommend a company page. Loving company pages at the moment.
Especially the Northern Affinity one.
You were sorry? Oh, yeah, especially the
Northern
Northern Affinity. Yeah, I know exactly. I've got control. Could be a bit worrying that. I think company pages are really, really coming into their own. LinkedIn are really focusing on them because it's their main advertising platform. So you get a lot of companies who have got a company page, larger companies who are obviously using it for advertising, and they want to encourage more smaller companies into it. So they're really beefing up the features that you've got on there and getting more employee engagement coming along as well. So absolutely huge benefit having a company page. I'd highly recommend everyone go on. Even for me, I use my company page quite a lot. And there's just me, I don't have any employees. So definitely worth looking into.
Yep, thank you, Pete. Another question I see a lot around LinkedIn.
Yes.
The premium options.
Yeah.
Are they viable? Are they valuable or viable?
Well, so my answer to this is always no. It wouldn't be the first thing I would do. There's so much you can do on LinkedIn for free. You don't need to pay for it. I think the only times that you have to pay for it is if you are really going to be a heavy user of LinkedIn. Now, I have Sales Navigator on LinkedIn because I was forced by LinkedIn to get it because they introduced this commercial search limit, which meant when I was training people, I very quickly couldn't run out of showing people how to do searches and stuff. So I had to pay for it. But before that, my view was I only had the free version because my view was you can use LinkedIn for lead generation without paying for it. So I wouldn't worry about getting premium at all. And if you were going to pay for it, I would get Sales Navigator rather than premium, because I think you get so many more benefits with Sales Navigator.
Yeah, that I also think is worth mentioning to people. Most people, you get 3 months trial of Sales Navigator. So try it. I think just take a bit of time to kind of set it up how you want to it, but try it for a month, see how we get on with it.
The frustrating, so I'm going back to all the things that frustrate you about LinkedIn. But that is one of the frustrating things. Sales Navigator is their premium prospecting tool. yet it doesn't integrate with LinkedIn. It's like drives me up the wall. So if you send a message to somebody in Sales Navigator, you can't see it on LinkedIn. If you send it on LinkedIn, you can't see it on Sales Navigator. I'm like, so that's frustrating.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, it's something we've been discussing internally about Sales Navigator, and that was the one thing for me. It's okay trying the free trial, but then after the trial, if you've messaged someone and they happen to reply a couple of days later, it's lost, it's gone forever.
Yeah,
but
that's right. Yeah. That's a big. I just don't understand that.
Yeah. Well, I think we've answered most of the questions. Obviously, and well, if there's any more, you could pick up offline as well, Judy. But I wanted to mention to everyone, obviously, you're taking over our social media platforms today, so there's lots of good content and things that Judy's putting out there on LinkedIn, obviously, but also on our Twitter page and our Instagram pages as well. There's plenty of good stuff going out there, so check those out, guys, and I'm sure you'll get some good value from that. So is anything more from you, Judy, before we finish?
No, just a big thank you to everybody who has joined me live and will listen to this later, and a big thank you to Michael and the Northern Affinity for giving me access and hosting me today.
Oh, well, you're more than welcome. So thank you everyone for watching. Like I said, if you do watch this on demand after the live and got questions, please put them to myself, or just go directly. I'm sure Judy would be more than happy to take them directly as well.
Yes, absolutely.
But thank you everyone for watching. Obviously, nice thank you there from Pete. Cheers, Pete. And,
cheers, Pete. Thank you.
Yeah, check out the rest of the content that's going out the rest of the day, guys. So have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye.